Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Bitcoin saw another nice little pump overnight, but we are seeing a bit of volatility both directions. This is actually fantastic for traders such as ourselves, obviously. Unfortunately, the long setup I laid out in yesterday's stream got front run very slightly before running overnight, but that's okay. I ended up laying out this new bullish Stuber in my Telegram way in advance when we were trading around 91,500 US dollars. We only managed to catch my first entry at the 786 basically before climbing and hitting my first target, the zero point 0.5 fib there. So so far it is small gains, but profit is profit. And more importantly, just showing once again how well my systematic trading strategy using very basic market structure and Fibonacci's gets respected in this market. Here is actually the setup that I laid out for VIP members before even getting out of bed this morning. And of course, for those of you interested in seeing way more examples, how I'm looking at market structure, how I'm pulling fibs, some of my favorite trade strategies, some of my trade setup ideas, and so on, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen and sign up under me on the BloFin, a no KYC exchange I've been trading on for well over a year now. This will get you special promos in the future, as well as access to my free Telegram channel. So with that being said, guys, so far, like I said, I laid this out well in advance. Just another typical Stuber fib setup happening here, basically when we started losing some structure here. Basically, this would have been our last high, followed by higher high here. So either way, when we ended up losing this structure here, basically it ends up looking like we're going to take a little bit of a tumble there. And then notice that we end up finding some sort of a test along that 786 fib. Now, full disclosure, guys, this one is a little bit different from some of my Stuber fibs. This one, I don't actually consider it all that clean as far as basic market structure goes, but this is where I took a little bit of confluence from some of my MDX indicators. So one thing that I have mentioned in many streams in the past, obviously pretty much every stream, is how I use the trend master indicator. So basically looking for higher trending sell signals and higher trending buy signals if I'm looking for a bullish setup. And that's what we had here, right? We had a significantly higher buy signal. And in fact, our sell signal that ended up sending us to the downside, it was a higher sell signal. So basically at that point, just looking at it that, hey, this is our low before that buy signal came in. So I was willing to pull a Fibonacci there. Not only that, though, unfortunately, it isn't there anymore. But with the MDX ALGO master bringing up the auto Stuber fibs as well, they were printed out the exact same way that I have mine. It has since refreshed and set up the bearish setup here. However, yeah, basically the fact that the auto Stuber fibs were pulled exactly how I have my fibs pulled here and lining up with that MDX trend master confluence. So although the structure itself wasn't totally perfect for me, it was very close. And with that additional confluence, it was just something I was willing to take a stab at and mentioned in the Telegram there. So far, so good. Like I said, we've hit the 0.5 fib already. I was hoping we would push just a little bit higher and tag this 214 fib for my second target. My second TP is actually at about, well, not about, it's at exactly 91,477 US dollars is my next take profit. So we'll see if we end up getting that. It's still very possible. And it's still possible this position just runs, right? I mean, I still have 70% of my short position from the swing setup from $92,358 at this blue dotted line up here. We got so close to having that stopped out at break even for the remainder of that position, but we never quite yet, and we started pulling back. So we will see. I do have this long position open now if we end up blasting through that and carrying on to the upside. And like I said, guys, there is signs of strength in the market right now. I mean, obviously everybody's always talking about the December rally or the Christmas pump or the Santa rally, Santa pump, whatever you want to call it. It has very much been a thing in the past. It doesn't have to happen, but it does tend to happen. So we'll have to see. Maybe December will be quite bullish. We'll see. But some signs that actually, make that a little more realistic for me, because I don't really like playing those fundamentals and those random fundamental fractals and stuff like that. But I'll at least keep them, in the back of my mind. but it's more so when I start seeing structure coming in that suggests that these could be correct theories. This is what I was kind of mentioning yesterday, is the fact that since we did have this lower high, even though we did just respect my swing fail territory zone and end up getting rejected there, technically this is still higher than our confirmed lower high, right? So yes, it still looks a little bit weak there. However, at least there is that warning. That is at least a bullish sign that, hey, at least we have broken a level that we haven't done in a long time. So love to see that we got that. A pullback from there is absolutely natural. We'll have to see. I mean, we could still pull all the way back down here and get some sort of a STUBER retest. Actually, speaking of that, if I bring it up on the 4 hour, I bet we'll see the auto STUBERs do something like that. Yeah, absolutely. So the MDX ALGO master, the auto STUBER fibs on that is pointing out this Fibonacci range here. So it is absolutely possible we still pull back and still actually end up remaining bullish on something like that, just based off a signal like this. We're going to have to see what happens there. With the trend master indicator, this is another one. Obviously, I keep mentioning this one. It's probably my favorite indicator ever. But one thing that we have here as well on the 4 hour is we do have a higher sell signal here. And we now have a few, basically this buy signal, the price was actually a little bit higher. And since then, we actually ended up getting another higher buy signal. So we are starting to see these warning signs that the trend could be shifting to the upside. So I don't want to be completely, I don't want to rule that out, that we could get some sort of a bullish move. I still have my concerns. You guys know I'm still leaning a little bit bearish, just because even though we did get this here, I would have felt a lot better about it if we would have set another higher high, because at that point we'd basically confirm that an uptrend is happening. The swing fail, although, yeah, it's nice that we got above this level, it never broke the 115 and we never staircased. So, I have mixed feelings about that one yet. So I don't want to completely toss out my bearish theories until we get a confident break of the downtrend. And so far it's just, we kind of barely broke it, but that's a bit of a reach at this point. Honestly, it's still in a zone that I have concerns about this chart, basically. So we'll have to see. Bringing up the MDX liquidations indicator. Now this one has changed a little bit. We are starting to see, obviously we have liquidations all around us now, which in the past, previous weeks, when I was bringing this up, quite often we never really had much liquidity below us because we had grabbed it so aggressively to the downside and just forming a bunch of liquidations above us. But we never did go and grab that. So that's still something on the back of my mind, that we could end up going up and grabbing all this liquidity to the upside. However, something to consider is that we are starting to build a significant amount of liquidations below us as well. So at this point, just from a liquidity point of view, in my opinion, this could really go either direction. So I don't want to have too strong of a bias either direction at this point, because I think there is mixed signals. So just be careful out there. But that's the 4 hour, right? Like I said, on the 5 minute, still taking those STUBER trade setups. And I still have that part of my swing position running. But the weekly chart, I went over this yesterday. Basically, yeah, we're at a potential support level with this 786, 886 zone. However, much like our previous cycle, I mean, we just kind of ended up getting some sort of a bounce, but just chopped around sideways a little bit for a couple months before continuing to the downside. So I don't want to rule that out either. There's nothing suggesting that we need to go to all-time highs. Obviously, I would be all for it if we do end up just starting to build structure to the upside. Let's say even if we set a little lower low there and then break that and start staircasing higher. That's something that I would love to see. And I would love to see crypto, and not just Bitcoin, but crypto as a whole. I would love to see crypto go parabolic for the end of the cycle, basically. And, just go parabolic. That would be absolutely phenomenal if we did get that. But I don't want to assume that it's happening until we at least start confidently breaking the 4 hour trend, right? We are so far away from retesting all-time highs or anything like that. I have my doubts that we will hit new all-time highs this cycle, but I am very willing to change my opinion if the chart structure suggests that it's a possibility, basically. Looking at the shorter time frame, so we are seeing a little bit of weakness even on this little trend already. Notice that I have this little white line mapped out here. So basically, when we lost this white line, we did lose micro support, right? Just as far as this little uptrend that we formed here. This would have been our last high, higher low, and we ended up losing this. So at this point, I'm not so sure if I am going to get my 214 target. And that's why I mentioned in the Telegram right before starting this that I was taking another 15% off of my long position. And if we end up hitting this level, I'll take another 20% and just let 40% run from there. But being that we saw this little weakness here, I wanted to adjust my position a little bit before getting started here. So it's absolutely possible that we just end up dumping to the downside here. But I just like to protect myself from either direction, basically. So at this point, I mean, my long has a break-even stop. My short has a break-even stop. Whichever way we go from here, I'm happy because I've taken some profits off both positions at this point already. And guys, those of you who do appreciate the fact that I try and keep a level head and be the voice of reason in this market and just kind of trading the charts for what they are and keeping all that fundamental hopium as well as the fear and FUD, I'm trying to keep that stuff to a minimum and just trading the charts for what they are. So if you're a serious trader and you just appreciate trading the charts for what is in front of us rather than what we hope is here a few weeks or months from now, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And another thing that caught my attention earlier today, you guys, is once again the MDX long short ratio. You can see that we have seen longs basically start climbing to the upside again, and that's where we started taking a little bit of a tumble here. So at this point, if longs continue to climb, I would expect the price to just dump off a cliff. Well, maybe that's a bit exaggerating, but I would basically, if the longs continue to climb, I would expect the price to continue to drop to the downside. That is the daily chart. I want to zoom in and see something more immediate. Let's take a look at the 1 hour chart. So far right here, not really seeing too much. You can see that retail longs are basically just running flat for the last few hours. So yeah, we're going to have to see what happens with that. But once again, basically, if we see retail shorts start to climb on this indicator, then I think that's fuel for the rocket ship and we can continue going higher. We can smash through resistance levels. However, if retail longs continue to build as we test these resistance levels, then that's likely just going to be fuel for the fire and we're going to continue to plummet to the downside. So one thing that I love to see for the entire market, not just Bitcoin, is the fact that, and I know I've mentioned this in a couple streams recently as well, the fact that we have the Bitcoin dominance with this lower trending sell signal on the daily chart and currently respecting this blue line as resistance. So, I mean, it's a little early to say, but so far we are still holding that. We haven't seen much of a rejection yet, but I love to see that we're holding this. If the Bitcoin dominance ends up dumping through support and just kind of starts trending to the downside, that would be a very good sign for the market as a whole, in my opinion, especially altcoins, because basically that would mean, you know, if we see Bitcoin climbing, even though the dominance is dropping, that basically means that Bitcoin is easily climbing without even having focus on it. And it would be suggesting that people are willing to go risk on, you know, people are getting greedy and willing to diversify into riskier assets such as altcoins. And that would be great to see, because you guys know that for the end of the cycle, I would love to be very bullish on altcoins. I would love to get some sort of an altcoin season. We haven't seen much of one yet, obviously, but I would love to see it. But I kind of want to see some strength from Bitcoin before I get too aggressive in looking for long positions on altcoins. Still looking a little bit, but when we see some strength from Bitcoin and see some strength in the markets in general, that's when I'm going to be looking much more aggressively at altcoins. Let me know in the chat how you're all doing. Hopefully you are all absolutely crushing this trend. I mean, basically for 8 weeks now or so. We have been both these live streams and in the Telegram, you guys, we have been all over this trend. Although it's been to the downside, and a lot of people don't like that overly as traders, and just looking at volatility for what it is and not caring which direction the market goes, the downtrend has been so healthy. And by healthy, I don't mean bullish, right? By healthy, I mean the fact that we just continue basically setting lower lows, confirming lower highs, and then continue the trend to the downside. Either we end up setting lower highs in the STUBER fibs or getting rejected in a swing fail, much like this. So it's been a very clean trend and very easy to trade to the downside for the last couple months. So I hope those of you guys who have been here with me are absolutely crushing it, my friends. Can I have a look at Zcash? I absolutely can. I will look at Zcash first. I know it's been getting a bit of a bounce. Zcash and Troll were both moving very nicely today. Interesting. Let me just check a couple different time frames here. So something I will point out here. For one, I am disappointed that I ended up closing my entire short position and not holding on to the short that I took at around $700 on this guy. But you know what? We were at least aware that there was a potential shift in trend here. So hopefully, if anything, hopefully I was able to help some people avoid getting wrecked by FOMOing long into resistance on something like this. So far, it's looking like it's got a new uptrend. Obviously, it's a little bit early, but we do have the structure there. The fact that here we basically had our low, lower high, we ended up breaking that. And then notice what happens, right? When we get that structure break, where do we pull back to? Basically the 786, and we've been pumping ever since. So again, clean structure as far as I'm concerned. The fact that we break those levels and then see those pullbacks, a lot of people call this manipulation. I just call it basic technical analysis, that it's very natural to end up breaking resistance and pulling back to test support, just like it's very common to break support and then go back and retest resistance, right? Most people like to trade breakouts, and that's why most people get wrecked. Not saying that breakout trades can't happen, especially if you have your own set of rules for trading breakouts. But I would always much rather look for those pullbacks before actually entering a position myself. Gravy Train, glad to hear your thoughts on the 4-hour structure break, but not breaking the 115. Needed to hear that. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Because again, it's a sign of strength, right? I can't say that this looks all that bad. I mean, swing fails, getting rejected. Sometimes they do just end up nuking us all the way to new lows, kind of a thing. But again, I have mixed feelings about it. Just the fact that it technically broke this level, but it never broke this level, right? So yes, there's signs of strength, but they're just signs at this point. There's not obvious strength in that trend. How am I feeling about Aster? Excellent question. I am not in my long position anymore. I had mentioned that if we dropped, I think it was 97 cents, I ended up getting stopped out on the rest of my position in a profit. But yeah, it never ended up running the way I was hoping for. But that being said, it's not like the trade's necessarily over with. Like, yeah, I closed mine because I wanted to lock in profits. I didn't want to risk taking a loss on that one. But we do still have support technically. I don't like that we are retesting the support level so quickly. However, support is support until it's broken. So although I ended up closing my long position, I actually ended up buying some more spot Aster. So that's what I've been doing a lot of the times, you guys, with some of my shorting profits, dollar cost averaging into other coins that I want to hold, just in case we do end up going parabolic and continue the bull market. Then I'll be happy, right? The investments, the spot holds will be very happy. Just like if we continue going to the downside, the trading account really doesn't mind that either. So yeah, at this point, mixed feelings, because we're clearly at basically the start of support. I don't like that we've already tested it once, but it is still support. Ethereum, on the 4-hour, Ethereum looking a little better than Bitcoin for, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that, we ended up breaking a lower high, and on Ethereum, we actually broke it a little more confidently. But even more so than that, the fact that we had this sell signal here, I'm going to say this was our pivot from there. And the fact that we actually invalidated that lower sell signal there, that's a sign of strength for me. So again, I would love to see Ethereum hold this pink line. Basically, I would love to see Ethereum stay above 2890. But again, even if we drop that, at least we have potential support down below us. I'm actually going to check if the ALGO master will print an auto STUBER fib as well. Actually still printing a bearish one there. So that will be something to watch for if we end up pumping up above 3,400 USD, actually about 34.35 would be the 786 there. That's mapped out with a fib pull from this range high, basically. So something to watch for there if we continue climbing. The 5-minute chart, I have concerns about, just because, well, notice what we got here. Basically, we got a lower trending sell signal, lower trending buy signal, came up basically to the 786, not quite, but we do have potential there, potential resistance on Ethereum 5-minute there. Solana has been looking kind of weak lately. Notice that we ended up getting this perfect bearish STUBER here. I actually never took that trade. I ended up seeing this, just seeing this a little bit late, and I wasn't able to get my ideal entry, so I never got into it, but it's obviously been respected very well. At this point, basically my lower high for Solana on the 5-minute chart would be sitting around $136. I don't consider any of this chop sideways down here in this range a lower high, just because we haven't actually taken out our lower low yet. Whereas here we obviously had low, lower low, confirm this as our lower high. Until we form something lower, something like that, then we could confirm this as our lower high on the trend, basically. But we don't have that yet. So it is what it is. Hype not looking great. Nice that it ended up reclaiming this support level, but I don't even remember when I mapped this out. I assume it was in my last stream, but obviously we ended up getting that STUBER rejection on the 4 hours. So still a bit of a downtrend there, still looking a little bit nasty, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we fill most of this wick that I had talked about in the past. But notice we're getting very close to potential support if we're going to end up finding some, basically starting at the 786 down to the 115, all very possible for a support range. But we'll have to see. We will have to see what's happening there. We just don't have any nice signs on the 4 hour yet for a sign of reversal or anything like that. After you take your 2 TPs and you say you moved your stop to break even, is that break even for the entire starting position, or is it recalibrated for the remainder of my position? So by break even, I mean what my average entry price is. So the rest of my position would get stopped at break even, but I would still have those profits locked in. I don't change it to a level where, let's say, it would basically use my cushion from my profits to basically break even. I would still be locking in profits, right? For example, the short that I'm in from up here, since I had taken about 30% of my profits, those profits are locked in, and now my stop loss is on the rest of my position at my average entry. Hopefully that clears that up. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I really wanted to go over today. So one last time, if you appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And just a reminder for those of you interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, some of my favorite trade setup ideas, how I use Fibonacci's, how I look at market structure, give more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor and get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description down below. And yeah, with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you for watching with me once again. Peace out.